Alright, that was the opening section from a great rock and roll instrumental played by Franny Beecher. And Franny Beecher is a name that some of you, perhaps many of you, might not be familiar with, but he's an amazing guitar player, should be better known than I think he is. And he was famous for being Bill Haley's guitar player, Bill Haley in the Comets during the 50s and beyond, I think. And this piece, I suppose, is his kind of calling card virtuoso instrumental. You can hear it on the 1956 album Rock and Roll Stage Show from Bill Haley. And it's just chock full of great rock and roll, rockabilly vocabulary. And even just learning 12 bars or so of this, you're going to really give yourself a great technique workout. You're going to improve your rhythm and you're going to have tons of great licks. And for those of you who are feeling really brave, you can try learning more than that. You can try learning the whole piece, but that really is a bit of a project. I think there are kind of hundreds of notes flying around and it really is quite technically demanding. And there's quite a jazz influence going on here as well. And I actually only found this out a couple of days ago, but originally Franny Beecher was a jazz guitar player and he played with Benny Goodman for quite a period, I think, before he joined Bill Haley, and also detecting some Charlie Christian style ideas in there as well. So I'm sure Charlie Christian was an influence. So I'm going to take you through how to play this piece, and it's not a beginner's piece. There might be one or two little ideas and licks that are a bit more beginner friendly, but generally speaking it's a kind of intermediate or advanced level piece. So I'm going to assume some degree of knowledge already on your part and some degree of technical ability. I'm not going to spoon feed you every single note here, or that will all get pretty tedious, but I'm going to try and talk you through what's going on in this piece. I'm going to take it section by section as well. I think that's the most manageable way to do this. So let's kick off by looking at that introduction. The introduction then, that's the bit that I just played, and we're in the key of A for this one, and most of the tune is based on a 12-bar blues in A. So the 1, 4, 5 chords, you've got A7, D7 and E7, or their equivalents. Sometimes you've got an A6 or you've got some ninth chords, but they're all essentially kind of dominant bluesy sounding chords. But the introduction itself, that doesn't follow the 12-bar form. It's got some kind of different stuff going on. We've got this chromatic movement happening, but the whole thing kicks off with this fairly straightforward single note riff. It's really a bass line played on the guitar. It's doubling what the bass is playing. So that goes like this. So we're starting with the open A string root note, sliding into this C sharp, and then we've got this E note here. So it's root, third and fifth. And you're kind of cutting that first note short. I'm using a bit of palm muting to achieve that. Sliding into that C sharp, and the rhythm is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then we've got this lick, which is a great lick. It's all based on this triad shape here, an A major triad. This is my reference point here. It's that kind of D shape, but we're playing it a bit higher up the neck. We're starting on this E note here, and there's our root note, the A. We're going up to this high E, pulling off to a C sharp, and then coming down A, F sharp, and then an E. So you've got those chord tones there. You've got the triad, and then you've got this. This is the fifth of the triad, but an octave higher. And then this F sharp note here is great. This is the sixth. So this is an important note, I think, if you're playing rockabilly or rock and roll. Quite often you add in that sixth, and straight away you've got that rockabilly kind of a flavour. And then we've got, that's our phrase. And it's coming in on the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. On the and of 4 with that, I think the first time you play this, you're probably leaving out that first note if you're sort of following the recording really closely. But that's the riff, and then we're just taking it up the neck chromatically. So it's going from A sharp, B, and then C. And it's played pretty fast. And you're really going to have to think about your right hand, or your picking hand, I should say, if you want to get this up to speed. And something that I find myself doing with this kind of playing is just to keep my pick moving in the rhythm of the tune. So just moving down, up, down, up, down, up with the rhythm. It's got that kind of swing to it, and that helps me get that swing feel. And it also tells me whether I should be picking down or up on any given note, because it's just falling in line with the rhythm of the tune. So if I'm playing on an upbeat, like that first note, 3 and 4 and 1, I'm playing that with an upstroke of the pick. So it's up, down, up, pull off, up, down, 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 up. So it's like my pick is just bouncing up and down, feeling the rhythm of the tune. I don't know if that's how Franny Beecher did it. It's not the way you have to do it. There are other options, but that's what works for me. It helps me have that swing feel. It also helps me play this fast and get this kind of thing up to speed. So just taking that lick up the fretboard, and then we've got this lick. And it's another little triad, or I suppose it's an arpeggio kind of idea, which is just moved chromatically. So we're starting off with a C sharp kind of a triad. So you've got C sharp, F here, and G sharp. I suppose if you want to be pedantic, that's probably an E sharp there, but it's root third and fifth. Just moving that down to C, to B, to A sharp. Again, it's coming in on an upbeat, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1. So I'm picking that with an up and then a down up. Then we've got the last phrase of the introduction. Absolutely love this lick. It really flows beautifully. We're starting on the top string. We've got E, D, sliding from C to C sharp. That's that minor to major third sound. And we're really working out of that same shape we had right at the start of the tune. So that A triad with that added F sharp. And then we've got this. So A, and then we're sliding from G to F sharp and E. And then we've got this idea here. Jazz players would call this enclosure, I think. So we've got a C sharp note, which is your target note, if you like, and you're just playing 1 fret above, 1 fret below, and then hitting that target note. And then finally a low A root note. If you want to get this up to speed, if you want to play it as fast as the recording, it's important to get those slides and that hammer-on in the right place. That really does help with the flow of the lick. So we've got 2 slides there, another slide, and a hammer-on there. That's the introduction. I'm just going to play all of that slightly slower tempo for you. Next bit of the tune then, and we're now into that consistent 12-bar form, and this is Franny Beecher's first chorus. So we've got 2, 3, 4. And there's loads of really great stuff going on in this one. I love the way he is outlining the chord changes in a kind of jazz way, but still keeping it rock and roll and rockabilly. It doesn't sort of veer too far in the jazz direction. And the opening lick is this one. And a lot of this stuff is played in the 9th position. And if you like, you could think about your caged stuff here. This is the C form in terms of the caged system. There's our chord shape. And you could think about your A major pentatonic scale. So a really good reference point here. And you can also blues things up a little bit by including the minor third. So that's another really good reference point here. It's kind of the A major pentatonic with added minor third. I'm not sure if that's got a name. I think some people might refer to that as a major blues scale. I don't know if it's got an official name or not, but that's where that opening lick is coming from. So sliding minor to major third and just climbing up that major pentatonic scale to the root note there, and it's that 6th again. And then we've got this. So very similar to the introduction, but almost exactly the same lick from that triad arpeggio shape with that added 6th in there once again. Then we're changing to the 4 chord, so a D7 chord. Now I love the way he outlines this chord change. He's now switching to this set of notes here. So it's an A, it's a C, and it's an E, all played over that D7 chord. So what that's giving you, you've got the 5th, you've got the flat 7, and you've got the 9th in there. It's a kind of dominant 9th sound. And just playing around with those 3 notes is a really nice device actually on a blues, on any blues really. On the 1 chord, you can play the 1, 3, 5 triad arpeggio, and then if you just flat the 3rd over the 4 chord, then it's giving you that flat 7, and you can keep what was the 5th on the 1 chord now becomes the 9th on the 4 chord if you like. But all you need to think about is just the 1 chord, 1, 3, 5 arpeggio, flat the 3rd, and then you're describing the chord changes really nicely. And then we're back to the 1 chord again. More kind of bluesy stuff. We got that root note there, just giving it a little bend, including the flat 7 there. And we're then heading to the 5 chord, and we've got this. So more mixing minor and major pentatonic stuff. We've got this. This is a real Franny Beecher trademark, I think, these quick upward slides. So we're climbing up the major pentatonic. We hit the minor third and we're just sliding quickly up the fretboard. And then the same idea, but a slide just from the minor third to the major third, and resolving the phrase. Got the flat 7 in there as well. So that's it for that 12-bar section. Let me play that through for you a bit more slowly. So 2, 3, 4. So the next 12-bar chunk goes something like this. So this is really just the same riff played 3 times. It's this chromatic idea played on the B string. So we're starting off by sliding into this E note, picking it again, and then sliding, pick, slide, pick, slide, pick, slide, and then sliding up again. finishing off the phrase with this A and this F sharp note. It's that sixth once again. So that's our opening phrase. I think sometimes you can just detect the open top string in there. You can throw that in there too if you want. And then we're coming up to the fifth position. Another great rockabilly phrase, this one. It's like that kind of sixth arpeggio sound again, so minor to major third, then 5 to 7 on the B, and then hitting the root. Yeah, it's got a triplet in there as well. It's pretty fast when you play this lick up to speed. And once again, very often he's sliding up on that last note. And then we're just repeating that over all of the chords in the structure. It works over all three chords in the blues. So over the D, and over the 5 as well. So fantastic, that phrase, I think, really like that bit. The next section, the next 12 bar chunk, and this is letter D for those of you who are following along with my tab. It goes something like this. So some more lovely stuff here, some quite similar material to start with. We're in the fifth position once again. We've got more of this mixing major and minor. We've got that F sharp sixth note in there as well. And the first phrase is this: 2, 3, 4. And if you like, you can think visually. There's a nice box shape here which works really well over the A7 chord. It's just frets 5 and 7 on the top 3 strings. And then you can throw in that major third as well, so really just coming down that shape and ending on the root note there. Then we've got, this is the same lick we had in the previous section, and we continue like this. So this is over the D7 chord. Emphasizing that E note, the 9th once again. And then we're back to the 1 chord. And we're back into this little shape in this kind of C form shape up here, which we've had a couple of times before already. And then over the 5 chord, this is one of my favourite licks in the whole piece. I think we've got, it's really just this ascending melody on the top string, kind of blues scale thing, but we keep coming back to this A note here. So and then we're resolving it to the 1 chord here. So really nice phrase this, and the rhythm is great too, the syncopation. 2, 3, 4. That lick alone is worth stealing and getting into your vocabulary, I think. But that's the end of that section. Let me just put all of that together in time at a slowish kind of a tempo. So you got 1, 2, 3. next 12 bar section. I realise there is a ton of material in this one. I'm not expecting many of you to attempt to learn all of this. You might just want to skim through this and just choose your favourite parts. But the next part is this. We're going to more of a riff kind of approach. So it's all based on a riff which we're taking round the 1-4-5 of the blues progression, and the riff seems to be this. There's a cheeky little sort of triplet rhythm thrown in there, which I think is really nice. We're starting on the root, and then we've got this kind of chromatic triplet here. So C sharp, D, D sharp, and then we're on E. This is how I'm playing it. I'm playing it with a slide from the C sharp to the D. You might be able to do that with a hammer on. I'm not sure on the original whether it's a slide or whether it's a hammer on. You can kind of do it both ways. But for me, the slide just flows a little bit better. So. Important just to keep your pick moving in the right direction if you want to get this up to speed. And then it's really just a question of taking that round the 12 bar form. So we're going to the 4 chord, back to the 1, and then the 5 chord. To end, we've got a lick, a single note lick, which goes like this. Another really nice lick, and we've just got these kind of chromatic notes. So approaching the root of the A from 1 fret below, then approaching the C sharp from 1 fret below, and then we've got 5 to 7 on the top 2 strings. Very jazz kind of sound with this one. It's a little bit Django Reinhardt, I think, some of this stuff. And then we're up into this position again. So playing around with those same notes we've had before. So lovely lick. And then we're into kind of a breakdown section. There's a bass solo, and then everything starts repeating. We've got a re-intro. I think there are 2 or 3 more choruses. It's all based on very similar material, so I'm not going to go through all of that right now, note for note. We'll be here for another couple of hours. But for those of you who are keen to learn all of this note for note, you should be able to figure out what's going on if you've learned all of the piece so far. You might want to check out my tab as well. I'm going to tab out the entire track note for note. There is in fact a nice little ending lick which I may as well show you, and that goes like this. So in this same position, coming down an A major scale to the root, climbing up an A arpeggio, and ending with an A7 chord. So 2, 3, 4, 1. Great little ending lick. Let's just briefly talk gear. The guitar I'm using today is my Jazzmaster neck pickup. And just for convenience today, I'm using my Kemper Profiler, and the profile I'm using is something called 57 Deluxe, so some kind of Fender 50s amp, which I thought would be appropriate for this song. And I'm just using one pedal, which is the Belle Epoque Deluxe delay pedal, just for a bit of rockabilly slapback. I'm not actually detecting any slapback delay on the original recording, but I thought it sounded nice, so why not? And as far as what Franny Beecher used on this recording, not exactly sure. On the video footage that you can see on YouTube of him performing this track in the film, it's a slightly different performance, I think, but in that performance he's using a Les Paul, which must have been one of the earliest Les Pauls, I would think, and I think it's got kind of P90 pickups in it. It's a black Les Paul, and he's got a couple of Fender amps in the background as well, so I'm not sure exactly what those would have been, some kind of tweedy old Fender amps. So if you want to capture this tone, I mean, there's nothing particularly unusual about the tone. It's just a nice kind of fat sounding clean tone, So you can get this kind of sound with more or less any guitar. I think I would say probably neck pickup, some kind of Fenderish amp, throw in a bit of rockabilly slapback delay should you wish. That's it for this video. Hope you've enjoyed it. And as I said earlier, you can get so much out of learning a piece like this, or even just learning one or two licks. You might just want to take one or two of your favourite phrases and add some of this lovely rockabilly vocabulary to your playing. Now, if you want tab, that's going to be up on my Patreon page. I spent absolutely hours this week figuring this one out and tabbing it out. We've got 8 pages worth of tab. You can go to my Patreon page, pay what you like, get access to that tab and many, many others. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.